There are battles people cannot see, but heaven sees every injustice and every evil decree spoken against you. Today, through Psalm 35 and 109, we are entering a prayer of authority for divine justice, reversal, and breakthrough. There are moments in life when opposition is not merely natural, it is spiritual. There are battles that cannot be solved by human strategy, conflicts too deep for intellect alone, attacks too hidden for ordinary defense. When voices rise against you without cause, when lies are spoken in secret, when injustice seems to gain ground, heaven does not remain silent. God has already provided an answer, and that answer is found in divine justice. There are moments when it feels as if forces beyond your control have spoken against your future. Words may have been spoken in anger, judgments may have been made in secret, and circumstances may appear to agree with every negative prediction. But there is a truth greater than every dark report. No word spoken by man has more authority than the word spoken by God. Human decrees may attempt to limit you, but heaven's decree has already established your purpose. What God has ordained cannot be cancelled by opposition. Too many people live as if the negative voices around them carry final authority. They begin to believe the labels others placed on them. They accept defeat because adversity seems persistent. But when you understand the authority of God, you realize that evil decrees only have power when you agree with them. The moment you align yourself with what God has declared, something shifts in the spirit. Fear begins to lose its grip. Confidence rises. Faith takes its rightful place. God's decree is not a suggestion, it is a sovereign declaration. When God speaks life over you, no curse can overpower that blessing. When God ordains your destiny, no conspiracy can stop its fulfillment. This is the confidence believers must carry. Your life is not governed by the opinions of enemies, by hidden attacks, or by systems designed to resist your progress. Your life is governed by a higher authority. Throughout history, every evil decree raised against God's people encountered divine reversal. When destruction was ordered, God preserved. When oppression increased, deliverance emerged. What looked final was overturned by a greater verdict. This is the pattern of divine justice. Darkness may issue decrees, but heaven issues decisions. And heaven always has the final word. There is power in understanding that opposition does not mean abandonment. Sometimes the presence of resistance confirms the value of what you carry. The enemy does not attack what has no significance. Often, warfare surrounds those standing closest to breakthrough. What appears to be a threat can become the very stage where God reveals His power. This is why you must stop measuring your future by present conflict. The battle around you does not define the outcome ahead of you. God's decree is stronger than your circumstances. It is stronger than betrayal, stronger than false accusation, stronger than delay. What God has written over your life cannot be erased by what others have spoken against it. When you pray with this understanding, prayer stops being desperation and becomes agreement with divine authority. You begin declaring what heaven has already spoken. You stand not as one begging for survival, but as one enforcing a covenant promise. And when a believer stands on God's decree, every evil word begins to collapse under the weight of truth. Hold firmly to this. No curse outranks a calling. No evil decree overrides divine purpose. What God has established for your life remains secure. His word is higher, His authority is greater, and His verdict over you still stands. Prayer is far more than a religious routine or a moment of comfort in difficult times. Prayer is a spiritual act of authority. It is the believer stepping into agreement with heaven and enforcing in the earth what God has already established in His will. Many have reduced prayer to asking, pleading, or hoping something might change, but true prayer carries power because it operates from covenant, not desperation. It is not the language of weakness, it is the language of dominion. When injustice rises, when opposition seems relentless, and when hidden attacks attempt to undermine your peace, prayer becomes more than devotion, it becomes warfare. This is where many misunderstand spiritual battle. They try to fight in the natural what must be confronted in the spirit. They respond to betrayal with anger, to accusation with retaliation, and to adversity with fear. But prayer redirects the battle to the highest court, where divine justice is released. There is something powerful about a believer who understands that prayer is not merely talking to God, but partnering with His authority. When you pray according to God's word, you are not trying to persuade Him to act. You are aligning yourself with what He has already declared. That changes everything. Your prayers become bold, focused, and effective. You stop praying as a victim asking for rescue and begin praying as a son or daughter enforcing a kingdom promise. This is why prayer unsettles darkness. The enemy fears believers who know how to pray with authority, because prayer can expose hidden plots, overturn evil assignments, and shift outcomes that seemed fixed. Through prayer, chains break that no human effort could remove. Through prayer, doors open that no earthly influence could unlock. Through prayer, justice moves where injustice once ruled. Many people underestimate what happens when they pray. They think because they cannot immediately see change, nothing is happening. But prayer often works in realms beyond what eyes can detect. While you are praying, God is arranging, exposing, dismantling, and positioning. Heaven is responding even when circumstances have not yet caught up. Delay does not mean absence. Silence does not mean inactivity. Divine justice may move beyond your sight before it manifests before your eyes. Prayer also strengthens the one who prays. It does not only change situations, it transforms the believer. It lifts your perspective above fear. It replaces anxiety with authority. It reminds you that your battle is not yours alone. When you pray, you stop carrying alone what was meant to be placed in God's hands. And this is the mystery of kingdom warfare. The posture that appears weakest to the world is often the most powerful in the spirit. Kneeling in prayer can accomplish what striving in human strength never could. Never treat prayer as a last resort. It is a first response. It is a weapon given to enforce divine justice in every area where darkness seeks influence. When a believer prays with faith, heaven answers, strongholds move, and evil loses its ground. Prayer is not passive. Prayer is power in motion. Many people assume opposition means they are moving in the wrong direction, but often the opposite is true. Spiritual resistance can be evidence that something significant is ahead. The presence of warfare does not always indicate defeat. Many times it signals destiny. When purpose is under attack, it is often because purpose carries power. The enemy does not invest energy fighting what poses no threat. Opposition frequently surrounds those who are approaching breakthrough. There is a tendency to interpret struggle as abandonment, to believe that if doors are resisted or battles intensify, then God must be absent. But spiritual understanding reveals another reality. Resistance can be a sign you are pressing against barriers that are about to break. Some of the greatest moments of divine intervention come after seasons of intense pressure. The conflict is not always proof that you are losing. Sometimes it is proof you are advancing. Before great deliverance, there is often great confrontation. Before elevation, there is often testing. Before open doors, there are often attempts to discourage, delay, or distract. This pattern repeats because purpose attracts opposition. Anything carrying divine assignment will encounter resistance. Yet resistance does not determine outcome. It only reveals there is something worth contending for. Too often people retreat at the very point they should remain steadfast. They mistake pressure for a signal to quit, when it may actually be confirmation they are close to breakthrough. The darkest part of the night often comes just before dawn. In the same way, some spiritual battles intensify, not because defeat is coming, but because breakthrough is near. This changes how you interpret hardship. Instead of asking, "Why am I under attack?" begin asking, "What purpose is this opposition trying to resist?" That question shifts you from victim thinking to kingdom understanding. You begin seeing conflict not as random suffering, but as part of a larger spiritual contest surrounding destiny. There are battles that emerge precisely because you are moving towards something greater. New levels often provoke new resistance, but greater resistance can also indicate greater calling. If the pressure has increased, it may be because your assignment has weight. If warfare has intensified, it may be because what lies ahead carries significance. And this is where faith must mature. Faith is not proven in the absence of opposition, but in persistence through it. Anyone can believe when circumstances are favorable, but true confidence is forged when you keep moving while resistance pushes back. Breakthrough often belongs to those who refuse to surrender in the middle of struggle. Do not let opposition define your future. Let it deepen your resolve. Every attack does not deserve fear. Some attacks should awaken expectation. What if the battle you are facing is not a sign to retreat, but evidence you are standing on the edge of something greater? Purpose is often opposed before it is revealed. Breakthrough is often contested before it is manifested. But what God has prepared cannot be permanently resisted. Hold your ground. Stay faithful under pressure. What feels like warfare today may be the very sign that tomorrow carries victory. Opposition may have increased, but so has the nearness of breakthrough. Many people think of divine justice only as God defending them from harm. But divine justice is far greater than protection alone. It does not merely stop the attack. It restores what was damaged and vindicates what was wrongly accused. God's justice is not limited to shielding you from evil. It reaches into broken places, repairs what was lost, and publicly reveals the truth where lies once prevailed. There are seasons when people suffer not only from opposition but from the consequences of injustice. Time is lost, peace is disrupted, reputation is attacked, opportunity seems stolen. In those moments, many pray only for survival, asking God simply to end the battle. But divine justice carries a higher dimension. God does not only bring you out of conflict, He can restore what conflict tried to take from you. This is the difference between mere deliverance and kingdom justice. Deliverance removes you from danger, but divine justice restores dignity, purpose, and inheritance. It does not leave you merely rescued, it leaves you renewed. What was broken can be rebuilt. What was delayed can be recovered. What was unfairly taken can be returned. There is a powerful truth in understanding that God is not only concerned with defending the righteous, He is committed to vindicating them. Vindication means truth is revealed in such a way that what was falsely spoken loses its authority. Hidden lies are exposed. False accusations collapse. What was misunderstood is brought into light. And often, God does this in a way that no human effort could achieve. Too many people exhaust themselves trying to prove themselves to critics, trying to answer every false word, trying to fight every accusation. But vindication is not manufactured through self-defense. It is often the work of God Himself. When God vindicates, no one can dispute the outcome. What He establishes stands. And divine justice often includes restoration beyond what was originally lost. This is one of the mysteries of God's dealings. He does not always bring you back merely to where you were before the attack. Sometimes He brings you into greater strength because of what you endured. What was intended to weaken you becomes the very process that strengthens you. What was meant to shame you becomes part of your testimony. This is why the believer must never assume that suffering has the final word. In the kingdom, injustice does not have the last sentence. God's justice speaks beyond the injury. It writes a better conclusion. There are wounds only divine justice can heal, losses only divine restoration can recover, and wrongs only divine vindication can fully answer. But God is able in every one of them. He sees every hidden burden. He knows every injustice endured in silence, and He is not indifferent to any of it. Trust that God does more than defend those who belong to Him. He restores what was taken. He vindicates what was attacked. He turns pain into proof of His faithfulness. And when divine justice completes its work, the story is no longer about what tried to destroy you, but about how God preserved, restored, and openly vindicated you before all. The message of Psalm 35 and 109 is clear. No evil decree can stand against the authority of God. Every attack, every false word, every hidden scheme must bow before His justice. God's higher decree overrides the plans of darkness. Prayer enforces heaven's verdict. Opposition often signals breakthrough. And divine justice not only defends you, but restores and vindicates you. This is why you must not surrender to fear or discouragement. Stand in spiritual authority. Pray with boldness. Trust that God is fighting battles you cannot see and overturning what was designed against you. If this message has stirred your faith, do not keep it to yourself. Declare in the comments, God is overturning every evil decree over my life. Share this prayer with someone who needs divine justice today, and let us agree together in faith. Subscribe, stay connected, and continue standing on God's word, because your breakthrough may be closer than you think. May every evil decree be overturned, every hidden attack be broken, and God's justice arise in your life. Stand in faith, keep praying, and remember, When God fights for you, no power of darkness can prevail.